Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome back to the Bachelor playthrough of Pathologic Classic HD. Where we last left off, the Bachelor had to go see a investigator called Yulia and see if she could help us solve the murder of Simon Kain and Isidor Burakh. I accidentally deleted the recording I had made of this already, so apologies. I'll have to go back and do that again. But that's fine, and also my uploading schedule has been pretty crap the last 2 weeks because I moved house and lots of different things involved, and that kept me away from doing this. So I'm back now, and we'll be back to my regular uploading schedule, making sure we're on the right track. How are you guys doing? You keeping well? Just about to sip a cup of tea. Hope you're all staying hydrated as well. It's quite a nice house. Yulia.
This girl is a changeling. She's not the murderer.
I seem to have lost any capacity for observation. My mind is out of tune. Things no longer add up. Before, I had no trouble forming a trustworthy tessellation out of the most imperceptible contingencies. Now, I simply cannot get my head around it. Could it be that I am dying? The steppe air is way too thick. I think that's what's caused it. Oh no, Herba Tavernae is in blossom, I grant you, but then it blooms every year. Every year the steppe is filled with its stupefying vapours. The issue I'm having, however, has nothing to do with fatigue or perplexity. It is just that I've lost my ability to make distinctive events coincide. Everyone has that ability. You don't seem to understand what I'm saying. Let me elucidate. A single word someone utters may precipitate the birth of their own murderer. This line of philosophizing is barely an intellectual novelty, and it is particularly relevant in our neck of the woods. I sometimes feel like I could touch the notions of cause and effect with the tips of my fingers. But now, I'm being tedious, I reckon. Not at all.
I should let some fresh air into the room, but I don't feel like it.
So, you've travelled all the way here only to find that both people you wanted to see were brutally murdered. Is this how the story goes? I do hope that your visit is not in any way related to those most unfortunate circumstances. I have to investigate whoever it is that killed Isidor and Simon, and I wanted to ask for your help. Sabalov told me you have a gift for all manner of investigative inquiry. Our own modern-day Jessica Fletcher. I'm certainly no better investigator than you. I never had a chance to search for a murderer before. The best I can offer is to fill in the blanks with whatever mysterious supernatural entities seem most fitting. Shabnak Adila is the most simple man's scarecrow. I would have followed a different narrative. What kind of narrative? Consider the circumstances of his death. They said Simon had locked himself up in the evening and consequently died in the morning inside the mansion, in a chamber with some peculiar name. In this case, I would suggest that Simon was poisoned. By the Kains, I would have thought, but I know their family all too well. Their mutual loyalty is only rivaled by their arrogance towards anyone who is not one of them. They hold the princely sage who stands at the head of their family in highest esteem. They believe that a single dishonourable act will tarnish the name for generations to come. I doubt any of them would have stooped to this, no matter whether they wanted to or not. Poisoned. How did you arrive at this conclusion? I don't believe you understand what "he died in focus" really implies. Do you know what the Kains refer to as focus? You don't seem to grasp the semantics of the term. These are the Kains for you. These kinds of innuendos are their forte. Well, what is this focus then? The focus is anything but an abstraction. Quite the opposite, in fact. It is governed by mathematical rigid regularities. You see, no one but the owner of a focus may get inside. This can only mean that Simon had brought the killer with him, or rather within him, since no physical object may be brought into focus either. How do you know that? Who doesn't? The Kains are notoriously passionate about all manner of synthetic anomalies. They will never pass up the opportunity to devise a construct that would allow them to warp space, challenge physics, or manipulate optics. Metaphysically, a focus can be compared to a camera obscura. Do note that the name is not unfitting. No, it is entirely impossible for someone to get inside. A curious conclusion, but an incorrect one. Simon was disfigured and bleeding. His bones were broken. Is that so? Well, this does introduce a different perspective. Did you say Isidor was the last person to see Simon? The question is, who did he see before? The sun had not yet set when Isidor returned from the steppe. However, he came to Simon well after midnight. The question naturally arises, where did he spend the missing few hours? This is why I'm trying to trace Isidor's steps. I want to walk the same route. Don't get me wrong though. Was Isidor seen with Saburov by any chance? He was. Saburov he warned Saburov of an upcoming storm. Alright, let me suggest then that while he was walking in the steppe, he saw or learned something that he wanted to report to all three ruling families. In this case, either of the Oglimsky family should have been on his itinerary, especially since Burakh was one of their own men. Really? Definitely. The Bull project, from the abattoir to the railway, is controlled by the Oglimsky family. If Isidor's discovery had anything at all to do with the kin, Isidor would have certainly related to Vlad. So do make sure to pay a visit to the Lump. That's the name of the Oglimsky mansion. Another fitting name, wouldn't you agree? Thank you, Yulia. What would I do without you? This is the Lump, the mansion belonging to the Oglimskys, a family of factory owners. The 50-year-old Vladislav, its housefather, is called Vlad the Heavy by the locals for his bad temper. So Yulia's just given us some important information. I'm following in Isidor's wake, certain that the trail of his footsteps will lead me to the Crucible. There is little doubt in my mind that Isidor was well acquainted with each and every family in power, but it was Oglimsky that held Isidor's leash, a relationship rooted in unbreakable familial loyalty. It is with the Oglimskys that I must make my next destination. We have to remember as well that the Bachelor has been told if he doesn't solve this murder by the end of the day, he'll be killed. So let's try and avoid that fate. It's an interesting time period this game is set in. It's clearly sometime around the early 20th or late 19th century. You know, they have revolvers, which we have one of them. The architecture is quite European. I think it's Baroque, but don't quote me on that. Architecture is not my strong point. So it seems like at least for the first day, our main quest is to be the investigator to take on the role of finding out what happened to Isidor and Simon. And search trash cans for very useful water bottles. Oh, nice. It's interesting. I started off playing Pathologic 2 and then came back to play Pathologic Classic HD, and the mechanics are so different. The guys at Ice Pick Lodge really did an incredible job of introducing the game into the next generation. Let's make sure I'm going the right way. Okay, left. And Pathologic 2 is much harder. It also only has the Haruspex campaign. But they are releasing the Bachelor and the Changeling once it's finished, which hopefully will be soon for at least the Bachelor. There's quite a lot of replayability for this game. I mean, the events are always the same in terms of where you go and who you talk to, but you know, what you do, what loot you get, who you save and who you don't save is completely random. Well, in terms of you make a choice. Particularly with Pathologic 2, there's so many events going on that you have to miss some of them. You can't make them all, so you have to kind of pick and choose where you want to go. And they really fleshed out the Haruspex campaign. It's actually become sorry, I've gone the wrong way. I made that mistake in the first time I recorded this as well. And this game is a walking simulator enough without making it any longer. But yeah, the Haruspex campaign is about, I think, 10 hours in this game, but in Pathologic 2 it's at least 20-25 hours. Not including replayability, which is really, really good. Although they have said that the Bachelor and Changeling campaigns will be shorter. Hopefully not by much though, because the Haruspex is quite amazing. So if you're following along with the other two playthroughs I'm doing at the same time, we've already been here before. The Haruspex has met Oglimsky and he would help to clear his name. But let's see what he has to say to the Bachelor.
No, I won't believe in some earthen killer.
Ah, Bachelor Dankovsky, of course. Who else could be so dapper? I've heard quite a lot about you. Have you taken a look around? Be sure to check the state of the industry around here. We have our own ways. Do you think I've come to inspect this town? Come now, that's precisely what I'm saying. The sanitary inspection testified last year that the Bull project is in order. Nothing to cavil at. Everything's fine. Good for you. I can see you are not really seeing eye to eye. The project is special. Very special. That means common standards do not apply here. That would be very naive. You have me probably mistaken for someone else. I have nothing to do with your enterprise.
Fortune turns all things to the advantage of those on whom she smiles.
Yes. Getting everything back on track won't be an easy task. I'd like to inquire about the fate of my colleague, Isidor Burakh, about the manner of his death, to be precise. What are you implying? What is this manner you're talking about? Be so kind as to mind your own manners. I had nothing to do with it. Don't they say Isidor was murdered by a step-demon, a Shabnakadil? That was the thingy, a talon they fished out from the wound. I can take this from kids and weirdos, but you, a respectable negotiant. It's hard for you to believe, isn't it? It used to be hard for many. Take my boy, for example, a scoffer if I've ever seen one, and now even he believes it's real. He went off his head a bit. You're in the steppe now, esteemed sir. Eastern and backwards. The dead rise from their graves here, clay dummies dance, and bulls talk. Does he know the steppe well, that son of yours? He rubs elbows with the rabble, the butchers, odons, shepherds and gatherers, learns their tongue, collects their legends. He doesn't keep them in check at all. They even dare to come visit him within the premises of the town. If you see a worm creeping through the streets, he's definitely looking for my son. What's wrong with them visiting him within the premises of the town? They're dangerous, they're aggressive, and they hate everyone who isn't a steppe person. They'll jump you and kill you on the spot. They'll tear you with their teeth and devour your flesh while you're still throwing fists at them. So, if they are spotted within the town, countermeasures are taken. So your son knows who the murderer is. Perhaps you've even given shelter to them. Hold your horses. You want to talk to my blockhead? No, you have nothing to talk about. He's not here, thankfully. I don't want you two to meet. You heard me? These are tradesmen's words, and I'll stick to them. I won't leave it at that. Not the most charming of folk. A cunning lot, aren't they? The older Oglimsky does his best to avoid any mention of his household. When I asked him what his son was doing, the honourable stock-breeder momentarily lost his temper. I think that the son knows just as much as the father, and it will be easier to get him talking, but where can I find him? So he actually gave us a bit of information there by telling us that the steppe folk, in particular the worms, will visit him, his son. So, there's a worm now. We just track him. We should be able to get to the younger Vlad. I mean, we already know where he lives because of the Haruspex campaign, but we don't want to be meta. Well, not all the time. Should probably get some food soon. Our bar's really low, but just in case. Seven bottles of water, nice. Good, nice. Probably the biggest tip I give to anybody who plays Pathologic is to check the bins. It's not a common mechanic in many games, some RPGs, but it's where you get all your trade. And hobonomics is a big part of this game, a big part of surviving. And he's led us here. He just turned to attack us, but luckily we got inside.
Where did those lazy bastards go?
You found me here. Oh, well, I'm not surprised. I suppose you're not too surprised by the fact that everyone knows about you either. The rumor of your arrival spread like fire. Why have you come? I've come for some sightseeing. There was a peculiar incident that happened yesterday in the spleen. The children were playing in the mud as usual, but then suddenly they ran away from the sandbox, and the parents noticed that their hands were smothered in blood. However, none of them were wounded. Neither were any of them surprised. What's the solution to the puzzle? When the worried adults came to the place where the children had been playing, they found nothing unusual there, only sticks and stones. What do you make of it? Your children play peculiar games. Nice to meet a person of a skeptical mind. I'm Vladislav Oglimsky, the younger, of course. And you are, of course, Daniil Dankovsky. Nice to meet you.
Katerina thinks Clara is a messenger from heaven. Yeah, right.
Bachelor, I have news for you that should prove to be of interest. You seem to be looking for the killer, right? I'm listening. I'll have to briefly explain a few things to you. Have you already been told what a termitory is? No, I haven't. The termitory is a huge bunkhouse where the Bull Project workers live, although living is the wrong term for it. They nest. They are nesting as a commune with a rather simple way of life. It could, without reservation, be called savage. And? Let's get to the point then. A case of pointless, aimless unrest has occurred in that hive's mind's nest. The workers there are prone to lashing out from time to time, like beasts frightened by a storm. They rage, they howl, they gnaw at one another, an unsightly image of a mass uprising. And that is exactly what's going on there right now, isn't it? Precisely. And why are you telling me this? Riots occurred in the termitory several times before. The mob grows crazy for a few days, then they calm down just as unexpectedly. All of them at once. The sudden calm is just as void of reason as the unrest that had set them agog previously. Having a certain experience with the kin, we simply block the entrance to the zoo off until the riot defeats itself. And we usually lock them up beforehand. The evidence of an upcoming outbreak of mass lunacy becomes obvious in advance, and the termitory's Father Superior informs us of this. But Father Taichik has recently passed. A curious coincidence, don't you think? Mass anarchy. Anyway, a member of the kin managed to run off into the town while we were busy taking measures. You think he is the killer? I think you and I can help each other, Doctor. You are looking for the killer, and I am sure it is a runaway butcher. The title of a half-man suits him very nicely. The Kains claim that Simon had not been killed by a human hand, don't they? And our family doesn't need unnecessary unrest in the town. The butcher can babble devil knows what. His mind is most likely clouded with insane ideas. Why is your family so concerned about public order? Because we are rulers. It's nothing to do with charity, trust me. We are in charge of production after all. If the unrest becomes serious, the factories will stop, the project will start failing, and we have contracts. We would lose money. I'm surprised I have to explain this to you. I understand. So you don't want the runaway to spread unrest among the already scared townsfolk with his words, right? You are correct. They barely know how to speak, but that only makes it worse. Half men, half beasts. If they start preaching, you feel as though you've encountered a doomsayer. I need this butcher to disappear. Hand him over to the Kains, or simply kill him if the beast attacks you. The reward will be hefty. Very well, I'll look into this. Where can I find him? He is most likely being harbored in a suspicious house. That's in the crude sprawl. Yes. My father is a man of rather hard-handed disposition, and quick-tempered to boot. If he finds out the crude sprawl is concealing a fugitive, he will make a mess. Pointless brutality serves no one. I'm looking for peace rather than blood, I'm telling you. I'll do my best to make sure you're right. Show me the house. Vlad the Younger is more than eager to get rid of some beast-like troublemaker. I wonder what the creature whose murder would not be considered a crime looks like. So basically we can kill this worm if we want to, and won't be punished. And we've got a side quest. The beast-like fugitive. The younger Oglimsky exhibits a genuinely traditional kind of filial piety. Or is he pursuing some projects of his own? One way or another, he is determined to get rid of the beast-like troublemaker. I wonder what the creature whose death has no legal consequence looks like. So I think I'll leave it there for now. Next time we come back, we'll head over to Aspidi's house and see what awaits us with this troublemaker. So, hope you enjoyed, take care, and have a good day.